Okay, good afternoon once again. I know I've told you good morning a few times this week. Told you good afternoon and good evening. And you know what, these pressers and these times with you never get any easier. You really don't get numb to this after a while. You kind of get into the zone and you just hope your adrenaline and the Holy Spirit and whatever kind of takes over and you just keep moving forward. But, you know, I start all these off with a sense of gratitude, right? It's really what it's all about. It's tragic. And before we really get started in some of the notes, I would like to share this with you. Had a very special time this afternoon around noon. While it's been great trying to keep you guys updated, and you've done an outstanding job of capturing how special it is here in the City of Sullivan. And like I told you guys the other day, we knew it here in our community, how special Sullivan was, and now the rest of the world sees it, right? And they're really just getting a glimpse of how special, how a city, how a county, how a region, and how a state, and how the federal government can all come together and work in unison across partisan lines for the greater good. We have champions. They're out here every single day, every moment, picking up the phone, sending text messages, and they're all with the same theme. Thank you, and how can I help? Are you doing okay? They're stepping up. So my sense of gratitude, I just can't express it enough. Once again, before we get started, around noon today, for the first time, I had the privilege of joining folks from the Red Cross. There was a couple different agencies there, and also our EMA director, Jim Pirtle, who you all know, I'm sure you've heard the story, who's not only our EMA director, but also suffered some loss with his home, his son's home, a few siblings' homes, and they essentially had to go find his wife, Robin, and get her to safety the other day. So he's not only stepping up and taking care of us now, he's also having to take care of his family as well. He was there joining us today. We were at the EMA building at 60 West Harris Street. And probably the whole 12 years I've had the privilege and honor of my lifetime to be the mayor, there was never a time that was more special than at noon. And that's when 200 folks of my closest friends were standing in front of me. And we gathered together and we came together as a family and we just let them know it's going to be okay. Whatever they're going through, as tough as it was, it's going to be okay. And we're going to get through this together. All of us are going to get through this together. Having said all that, I would like to get in. Today was a day of totes and tarps. Getting tarps on structures that could potentially be salvaged. I personally think about 98% of it, if you've been to the impacted area, I think you'd all agree, probably can't be salvaged. But totes. And totes because we continue to let our citizens know to be aware of the weather. Be weather aware. Now that's not here to send up red flags or to sound the alarms or to scare you, but just be aware of the weather because as we know, the forecast can change within 30 seconds. We've all seen that within just a few minutes. So to be aware of that, and that's why it's so important that the volunteers and the citizens that were directly impacted have the totes they need. So we need the tarps, we need the totes, and thank you to the area churches and the folks out of all of the donations and supplies that you've given to this point. Right now, the totes are making the biggest difference. So they can get their personal belongings, those sentimental belongings that we all know we have in our homes, and can get those out of here. So I had the privilege to meet with them at noon today. We are still evaluating the unmet needs. So many folks are asking, what do you need? Well, we're evaluating that, and that was part of our discussion today at noon. Be sure to sign the list. Be sure to give us the most accurate and up-to-date contact information so we can know exactly what your unmet needs are. Over the coming days, we're going to have folks from the State Department of Homeland Security. I believe the BMV, Red Cross will be set up, city officials set up, and over the next several days, I'd love to tell you it's going to start tomorrow. It could be as late as Thursday, but we are going to be on the ground dealing with these folks one-on-one. We're going to help take care of their emotional needs, their physical needs, their spiritual needs, their financial needs, right here at 110 North Main Street, here at Sullivan City Hall. In actually the room we're sitting. So I hope we don't have to meet like this too many more times because this is going to go to a full-blown operation to make sure that the people of this community, first and foremost, are going to be taken care of, okay? So that's kind of the week ahead. I talked about the supplies and the different things coming to the city and coming to assist these people. But I can't stress enough long-term recovery. We're here for the long haul. You know, I'm not going to be here for the long haul after December 31st in the capacity as mayor, but I'm going to continue to still be their cheerleader and their champion. So regardless of what our title is, this is going to go beyond an administration, and long-term recovery needs financial assistance and support. It needs to be targeted. We need those resources to be able to directly impact the families and also be in here for the long haul. And that's why we continue to try to bring attention to that link that is on the city's social media. I believe it's on the city's website as well, and it's being shared by all of you, and it's being shared by multiple cities and towns all across the state of Indiana. The Indiana Conference of Mayors, Accelerate Indiana Municipalities, and everybody that's stepping up and supporting the City of Sullivan. Please make that financial contribution to the Community Foundation. I know the United Way is raising some funds as well. So please, we ask for those financial contributions. I will say this on the financial contributions and my message to the residents that were impacted. Although times are tough and we're going through a very, very difficult period, and we have so many people with the generosity and willingness to help, we also know there's some bad apples, right? We know there's some bad characters that try to make this an opportunity, right? It is an opportunity zone. It's an opportunity for growth and rebirth, but it's not an opportunity zone for scam artists and people that are coming and posing as other people and trying to get financial contributions for their own greedy needs. So please stay alert, and we ask you to direct your resources to the websites and the links that we mentioned. It's also a message from the Indiana State Police. There are common signs of fraud that we're going to get posted on our city social media here, so be aware of that. So I'm getting ready to turn it over to a few special guests. But I said this morning, and I want to say it one more time. As a mayor, of course it's been difficult, but you know when it set in? It set in last night when I was walking my dogs. When I was walking my dogs on my street that they don't have the opportunity to do. My street that might not be there tomorrow. Couldn't be there tonight. When I took for granted sitting on the front porch with my spouse. That's when it sets in. You probably said, Mayor, you were wearing that yesterday. I had a laundry machine and I got to wash it. And these folks didn't. It's the little things. I ask tonight, before what's laid upon your heart to make that financial contribution, take a walk. Literally, take a walk in your neighborhood. God bless you, everybody that's giving. God bless these outstanding gentlemen standing behind me. And without any further ado, I would like to turn it over. Whichever one of you wants to go first. Senator Mike Braun is here with us today. Congressman Bucshon. Senator, welcome on behalf of the citizens of Sullivan to our amazing community, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. You're lucky you've got a mayor like Mayor Lamb that obviously his heart is fully into this. Whenever a community gets struck like this, it doesn't happen often in Indiana. You got to go to like Henryville, Indiana. That was maybe 10 years or so ago. It hit Petersburg back in the 80s. I lived just a few miles east of there and remember touring that city. But when you come and you see the destruction, a couple things stood out to me. Almost, 200 home structures impacted?
Were impacted.
And people mostly within it, and somehow were able to get through it without getting seriously injured. And the condolences to the 3 that didn't live in town that didn't make it through. So it can be fickle when something like this comes through. But when you look at that destruction and to see that most got spared, somebody was looking at that from above. You got a tragedy like this, just like in other communities, they come together just like you can see out there. Everybody is giving their time. I think what the mayor said, sometimes you get inundated with things. Probably the most important thing for the families, for the community, is to make that financial contribution. When it comes to what else is hopefully going to happen, the state has declared it a disaster area. I think it's working on right now to get everything together to make sure we get a federal disaster declared as well. And with the help that'll come along with that, we'll be monitoring that. And my understanding is that They're working on it, and hopefully that gets done with dispatch. You look at what recently happened in a state like Arkansas, very similar circumstances, and that did occur. So we'll hope that that falls in place. But when it does happen, you've got mostly just yourselves. You're going to get people coming in from the surrounding area. And then what the mayor talked about as we were driving, what do you do after the immediate effect is worn off? You got homes that were uninsured. You got families that have been displaced. That was another amazing thing. I think you said at the Red Cross, only 5 individuals needed a place to sleep. That means they had family and friends nearby. And that wouldn't happen in almost any community. That's a blessing for living in a place like Sullivan. So it's hard to take anything good out of something that wreaks so much havoc, but you need to find it. Your challenge over the next year is going to be significant, and I and Larry and anybody else will do our best to make sure you get the resources to rebuild from tragedy into something that's going to be a better place maybe for those that come back and decide to live there. So hang in there, get through it. Everyone's prayers are going to be with you. You're a community of faith, family in that community. That's why you're seeing the activity we are so far. Larry?
I'm Congressman Larry Bucshon. I represent this area. It's an honor to represent Sullivan and Sullivan County and the 8th Congressional District from Indiana. For me, this was an emotional day. I was a surgeon before. I was a doctor. I spent my career helping people, taking care of people. And, on our tour, we obviously saw the devastation, but it was the human piece of that was really, really struck me. I stood on a street corner and talked to a family as they watched an inloader, bulldozer, getting rid of the remains of their house. And they were emotional. I was emotional. It's about people, and it's about helping people here. And as the mayor and the senator mentioned, there'll be short-term needs, but longer-term needs. People are going to need help to recover, and it's going to take maybe even years. I do want to send out my prayers to the families who lost loved ones, the families and the individuals who were injured, and also the people that miraculously made it through this but lost all their physical property. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. And as the senator mentioned, we will do everything we can at the federal level to make sure whatever assistance is available for the people of Sullivan County happen, and we'll be on it. And again, the last thing I'll say is it wasn't that long ago that I was at the community pool here in Sullivan with the mayor and a lot of the community at the ribbon cutting for the new beautiful pool and community center there, and we saw it was at the edge of the damage today, and it was partially destroyed, mainly some of the fencing structure around it. But I think as this community heals and recovers, that I look forward to coming back for the ribbon cutting after that community pool that is so important to this area has happened. Again, we'll be in touch with this community until we can get people through this, and it may take a long time to recover. So again, it's an honor and a privilege to represent this area. The mayor's done a terrific job, and I look forward to continuing to work with him in the future on this issue. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Congressman, we want you to bring your swim trunks next time you come back.
yeah.
We appreciate that.
It was a hot day that day.
It was a warm one for sure, for a lot of reasons. It was a long time coming. So, yeah. Obviously, at this time, we'd like to open it up to any questions. For the three of us? Yes.
Question for Senator Braun and also Congressman Bucshon. What more can you tell us about conversations you've had with FEMA and other relevant federal agencies about trying to get a federal disaster declaration for this area?
So that has to be initiated by the state, and there was damage across the state. So the format there is to compile it.
Senator, could you step a little closer to the mics? Thanks.
So there's a process to that, and we reviewed that before we got here because everybody's waiting on what's going to happen. So I think that's feverishly in process. I will make sure, I'm sure Larry will too, that everything is being done to the fullest extent. I think that'll happen fairly quickly. Hopefully there'll be a request made. It did happen recently in Arkansas. I mentioned that earlier. So this place took the brunt of it. We did have damage across the state, and you got to compile all of that, put it into a report. That's part of the formal request.
I don't have anything to add.
Yes.
For Mayor Lamb here, on the curfew that's been imposed, is there any idea of when that might be lifted or any indication how long?
It'll be there as long as the people need security. They've been through enough, and I want to make sure that they feel that sense of security and make sure that they are definitely protected. We started off with the 7 p.m. curfew, but then we moved from dusk till dawn, so that will remain intact indefinitely as long as resources are still there and as we continue to move on with cleanup efforts.
Thank you.
Have you been able to firm up any numbers on how many people were displaced total?
Well, the early numbers showed that there were 200 structures that were affected, 155 structures inside the city. I'm thinking out of those structures, this is a guesstimation. We predicted anywhere from actually probably 70 to 90 households. So you can kind of do the math there. So, but to actually have a 100% number, that is why we had one of our meetings today, because we're doing everything we can. As you know, and here's another thing I would like to remind the public, anything that you're doing for this cause, whether it's a financial contribution, whether it's volunteer time, making phone calls, please let us know what you're doing. Make sure that it is logged. Make sure we have all of this information, because I've stated before, there is so much going on, right? It's just all like this. And it's our job as officials to make sure when all this is going on that it comes through a funnel into a package that we can have a demographic, because I want to stand up here and tell you what percentage of the people we're uninsured, right? I don't want to give you a guesstimate. I don't want to give you a guesstimate of how many people have been displaced. Let's just say lots and lots, and we need as much of that information. And the more we can log and put that package together, the better our case will be when we send it up the line. Any other questions?
With the federal declaration, what kinds of resources become available then, or can become available at the federal level?
Well, through FEMA and others, there's all kinds of grants that will become available. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's extensive. There'll be a lot of opportunity to help from the federal level once the declaration is made and the president declares this area a disaster area. But I think I would recommend that you look at FEMA's website, and that will give you more complete information on what's available.
But the state has to initiate that process, the federal declaration.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, how long do you think it'll be before you get a set number on the damage? I mean, overall, as far as monitoring numbers?
So obviously, FEMA was here the other day for a windshield assessment. It was not a full assessment. It is my understanding that they're going to be returning in the coming days and weeks to do that full assessment. So, and also to answer your question, we've been the other question there is we're chasing every dollar. Trust me, every single dollar. And as a matter of fact, we're bringing in additional resources outside of federal resources, trying to bring a point of contact where we can put all those things together. Just as we've been working the last 12 years to revitalize the community, there was no magic grant, right? And this situation is going to be the same way. There's no one-stop shop. There's no magic bullet. It's going to take all of these different entities, all these contributors coming together, and that's how we're going to be able to maximize our resources. So I know there's some HUD money available. There could be some SBA money available. Just a few things that we have had early conversations and been researching, but we're on top of it.
If I can make one follow-up question. You said you had a window estimate. Are you in any position to give a ballpark about how much it might be as far as damage, as far as dollars?
No, I mean, there's really no way to, at this time, to be able to look at the financial impact. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming, and a reminder, we're going to try not to have as many of these sessions. We'll try to communicate with you through the City of Sullivan social media sources, also through media advisories and press releases. But once again, thank you so much, not only for covering this, but sending out the message, right? Because it's so important. We can do so much. And also, I want to close by saying this. Of course, the mayor can stand up here and talk about it, but I really appreciate you talking to the citizens. And what I told them today was, I know it's tough. I know it's raw. I know it's hard. You've just suffered a loss that I can't even fathom, that I'm just getting a glimpse to fathom. But you got to keep telling your story. You got to keep telling your story. You got to get it out there because we need as many resources. While things are getting good, and I'd love to stand up here and be the forever optimist and tell you things are great and they're getting better, but I can't emphasize it enough. We still need help. Thank you so much for what you do. God bless. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Good shape, and then any ways we can help out as you're sort of, and now start to get to where you take that area